Suge gave me a studio, and gave me an engineer in Hollywood.
Welcome back to Fame Flux, where the truth behind fame gets exposed. Big U has long been known for maintaining a close relationship with Suge Knight. Recently, newly uncovered evidence in an ongoing case has revealed a shocking twist. Big U has now been linked to the infamous attack involving Suge and Tupac on September 7, 1996, an event that ultimately led to Tupac's death. How this information remained hidden for so many years is a question investigators are now focused on answering. The recent update in the murder investigation sheds more light on what is believed to have happened that fateful night in Las Vegas. After attending the Mike Tyson versus Bruce Seldon heavyweight title match at the MGM Grand, Tupac Shakur, Suge Knight, and members of their entourage were caught on surveillance footage assaulting Orlando Baby Lane Anderson in the hotel lobby.
I think Suge Knight wanted it to look that way.
This altercation was allegedly retaliation for a prior incident in which Anderson, a known Southside Compton Crip, attempted to snatch a Death Row Records chain from associate Trayvon Trey Lane at a Foot Locker in Lakewood, California. Later that night, around 11:15 p.m., Tupac rode in the passenger seat of a black BMW 750 sedan driven by Suge Knight. The convoy was headed to Club 662, a Death Row-affiliated venue owned by Knight. As the car stopped at a red light on East Flamingo Road and Koval Lane, a white Cadillac pulled up alongside. A shooter in the back seat opened fire with a .40 caliber Glock, unleashing 12 to 14 rounds. Tupac was struck 4 times, twice in the chest, once in the arm, and once in the thigh, setting into motion one of hip-hop's most tragic moments. One of the bullets pierced Tupac's right lung, causing massive internal bleeding. Suge Knight sustained a minor injury, reportedly grazed either by a bullet or a fragment of shattered glass to the head. Despite the chaos, Knight managed to whip the BMW into a sudden U-turn, driving over a traffic median and covering a short distance before police and paramedics arrived on the scene. Tupac was rushed to the University Medical Center of Southern Nevada, where he underwent emergency surgery. Despite the medical team's efforts, Tupac ultimately succumbed to his injuries 6 days later, on September 13, 1996. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, the investigation encountered significant roadblocks. Numerous witnesses refused to cooperate with law enforcement, holding to the entrenched no-snitching code of the streets. Suge Knight himself, despite being in the car during the attack, provided little actionable information to investigators. As one journalist reported, when asked about cooperating with police, Knight famously stated, "I don't get paid to solve homicides." For years, the case remained officially unsolved. Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, widely regarded as the prime suspect, denied any involvement until his own death in a gang-related shooting in Compton on May 29, 1998. With Anderson gone, many believed the truth about that night would remain buried forever. However, a major breakthrough emerged when Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, Anderson's uncle and a prominent figure in the Southside Compton Crips, began speaking publicly. Through a series of interviews, recorded confessions, and his 2019 memoir, Compton Street Legend, Davis detailed his role in Tupac's murder. During proffer-protected interviews with police in 2008 and 2009, Davis admitted he was inside the white Cadillac that carried the shooters. He claimed he was in the passenger seat, with Terrence Bubble Up Brown driving, and Orlando Anderson alongside DeAndre Freaky Smith seated in the back. According to Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, he passed a .40 caliber Glock to the backseat passengers, from which the fatal shots were fired. Davis stated the rounds came from the back, with Orlando Baby Lane Anderson and DeAndre Freaky Smith positioned there. While speculation persisted for years about which man pulled the trigger, Davis refrained from explicitly naming the shooter in early accounts, later hinting heavily toward Anderson in both interviews and his memoir. In Compton Street Legend and subsequent statements, Davis described the attack as direct retaliation for the high-profile MGM Grand beatdown. He wrote that the assault on Anderson gave us the ultimate green light to move against Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. Davis consistently framed the shooting as a gang-motivated hit, triggered by the public disrespect shown toward his nephew that night. On September 29, 2023, authorities arrested Davis, charging him with murder with a deadly weapon and a gang enhancement. Prosecutors labeled him the shot caller who organized the ambush, emphasizing that he coordinated the plan even though he did not personally fire any shots. So why do rumors still connect Big U to Tupac's murder? Much of the speculation arises from Big U's status as a prominent Los Angeles Crip leader in the 1990s. As a commanding figure in the Rollin 60s neighborhood Crips, he held considerable influence in gang politics across the city. Some theories suggest his position could have given him indirect knowledge of, or even sway over, the actions of other Crip factions, possibly including the Southside Compton Crips, identified as being responsible for the murder. However, it is important to note that the Rollin 60s and Southside Compton Crips remain distinct entities, each with its own hierarchy, leadership, and territorial boundaries, making direct operational crossover far less likely than some claim. The assumption that Big U held direct authority over Southside Compton Crips operations oversimplifies the decentralized, complex nature of Los Angeles gang networks. As one expert on gang structures explained, Crip sets operate with autonomy, making major decisions independently. Large-scale actions, especially something as high-profile as the killing of a celebrity, would typically require substantial coordination, and there is no concrete evidence supporting such coordination in this case. Another source of speculation links Big U to Sean Diddy Combs and Bad Boy Records. In his sworn statements, Keefe D claimed that Combs allegedly offered $1 million for the killing of Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight, amid the notorious tension between Bad Boy Records and Death Row Records during the mid-1990s. If true, such an allegation would indicate a possible East Coast connection to the murder. Some conspiracy theories attempt to cast Big U as a middleman in this rumored plot, citing his long-standing Crip affiliation and alleged ties to the music industry. However, when reviewing credible evidence surrounding the case, several important points emerge. First, the most substantiated account, supported by Keefe D's confessions, law enforcement findings, and his eventual arrest, points toward a straightforward gang retaliation. This retaliation, carried out by the Southside Compton Crips, targeted Tupac and his entourage in response to the public beating of Orlando Anderson. This explanation is consistent with available witness testimony, surveillance footage, and the broader gang rivalries dominating Los Angeles in the 1990s. Second, while Big U's prominence within the Crips and his music industry connections positioned him close to individuals involved in these events, proximity alone does not equal operational involvement, and no direct, verifiable evidence links him to orchestrating the attack. In contrast to the speculation surrounding Big U, the scrutiny placed on Suge Knight's potential role in Tupac's murder has been far more intense and persistent. Despite being in the car with Tupac during the shooting and sustaining an injury himself, Knight has faced recurring allegations of involvement for decades. One widely discussed theory, initially proposed by former LAPD detective Russell Poole and later featured in Nick Broomfield's 2002 documentary Biggie and Tupac, suggested that Knight orchestrated Tupac's murder to prevent him from leaving Death Row Records. This theory gained traction amid persistent rumors of financial disputes between Knight and Tupac, including claims that Knight withheld a $700,000 check from the film Gridlocked, and that Tupac had been preparing to launch his own independent label. More measured critiques of Knight focus less on direct orchestration and more on his role in fostering the dangerous circumstances that led to the killing. His deep immersion in gang culture, unwillingness to de-escalate the conflict after the MGM Grand altercation, and his volatile approach to business and disputes all likely contributed to the violent atmosphere surrounding Tupac in his final days. The investigation into Tupac's murder has been hindered by numerous obstacles, including widespread witness intimidation, the entrenched code of silence within gang culture, and the untimely deaths of several key figures, such as Orlando Anderson. From the outset, Las Vegas police faced extreme difficulty securing credible testimony or physical evidence, leaving the case mired in uncertainty for years. Lead investigator Kevin Manning told journalist Kathy Scott that the case might never be solved due to uncooperative witnesses and a lack of credible new leads. Former Compton police officer Bob Ladd, who assisted in the investigation, highlighted how cultural disconnects severely hampered early efforts. He explained that Las Vegas investigators were ill-equipped to handle Compton gang members, often being laughed out of interrogations because of deep cultural misunderstandings. This insight revealed that even when potential leads surfaced, authorities often struggled to navigate the intricate social dynamics at play. The eventual breakthrough in the case came largely through the work of former LAPD detective Greg Kading, who interviewed Keefe D in 2009 as part of a drug investigation, using it to gain leverage in the separate probe into the murder of Biggie Smalls. During these interviews, Davis confessed to his role in Tupac's murder, though the proffer agreement in place initially restricted how his statements could be used. Kading's investigation, later detailed in his 2011 book Murder Rap, concluded that Tupac's murder was a direct gang retaliation, orchestrated by Keefe D and carried out by members of the Southside Compton Crips. Importantly, Kading's extensive findings never implicated Big U or suggested any wider conspiracy beyond the immediate shooters. Davis's later public statements in 2018, including his memoir and documentary appearances, gave law enforcement fresh grounds to pursue formal charges against him, reigniting the decades-old case with undeniable momentum. Despite the earlier proffer agreement, Las Vegas police, led by Lieutenant Jason Johansson, cited Davis's own public admissions as critical to reigniting the long-stalled investigation. On July 17, 2023, authorities searched Davis's Henderson, Nevada home, recovering several items, including a laptop, .40 caliber bullets, and a copy of his memoir, Compton Street Legend. This search directly paved the way for Davis's arrest on September 29, 2023, with prosecutors labeling him the on-site commander who ordered Tupac Shakur's death. In more recent years, Big U has shifted away from his criminal past, focusing on community initiatives and youth mentorship through his Developing Options nonprofit. Still, skepticism remains among some observers, who see his extensive gang history as reason for continued suspicion. To understand these lingering questions, it's important to examine the players in the game during the 1990s Los Angeles scene. Big U, respected as a prominent member of the Rollin' 60 Crips, operated in an environment where gang affiliations dictated nearly every aspect of life, from territory control to social interactions. At the same time, Suge Knight was rising as co-founder and CEO of Death Row Records, a powerhouse label reshaping West Coast hip-hop with a roster including Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and eventually Tupac Shakur. A crucial detail in this landscape was Knight's alignment with the mob Piru Bloods, a connection that inherently fueled tensions with Crip-affiliated figures like Big U, setting the stage for inevitable conflicts in both music and the streets. Due to the long-standing animosity between these gangs, the Bloods and Crips maintained a historic rivalry, which naturally positioned Knight and Big U on opposite ends of the gang spectrum. This deep-rooted hostility forms the backdrop against which any potential relationship between the two must be evaluated. If a connection between Big U and Suge Knight existed at all, it would have been highly complex, navigated cautiously, or conducted through neutral intermediaries in the music industry. Their opposing affiliations, Big U with the Rollin' 60 Crips and Knight with the mob Piru Bloods, created a structural divide that made direct collaboration improbable. However, according to industry accounts, Knight's control over Death Row Records often required engagement with figures from various Los Angeles neighborhoods, including individuals with Crip ties whenever mutual business goals demanded cooperation. This pragmatic, business-first approach may have opened the door for indirect interaction between the two. Their worlds began to overlap more noticeably through shared connections in the music industry. Big U was increasingly active in the entertainment space, taking on roles as a manager and promoter, most notably working with artists such as Corrupt, a Death Row affiliate, before later establishing his own ventures, including Unique Music. His growing influence in the 1990s placed him within overlapping circles with Death Row operations. Though no verifiable documentation confirms direct collaboration with Knight or his label. To fully grasp Big U's rise, it's essential to examine his own words from a 2022 interview on Big Boy's Neighborhood radio show, where he discussed his transition from street influence to music executive power. He revealed how he transitioned from managing a single artist to investing in the creation of a show that would later grow into a major success. This moment in Big U's career underscores his ability to recognize and capitalize on opportunities, showcasing his grasp of the behind-the-scenes strategies that built careers and shaped hip-hop's direction in the 1990s. It also highlights his ties to Peru members, demonstrating that despite deep-rooted gang rivalries, business alliances could form when significant financial interests were at stake. The East Coast-West Coast feud provides crucial context for understanding the volatile environment that often escalated tensions into violence. This infamous rivalry, pitting East Coast's Bad Boy Records, led by Sean Diddy Combs, against West Coast's Death Row Records, played out both in music and in the streets. Tupac's murder, followed by the killing of the notorious B.I.G. in March 1997, has long been associated with this feud, though gang-related motives have also remained central to the discussion. Suge Knight's control over Death Row Records and its roster was absolute. After securing Tupac's loyalty by posting his $1.4 million bail in 1995 in exchange for a contract with Death Row, Knight cemented the label's position as a dominant force in West Coast hip-hop. Under his leadership, Death Row became more than just a record label. It was a cultural powerhouse, deeply intertwined with gang influence and street authority. These allegations against Combs have not resulted in any criminal charges, and law enforcement sources have repeatedly stated that Sean Diddy Combs is not considered a suspect in Tupac's murder. Combs has publicly and firmly denied all accusations of involvement. The absence of corroborating evidence beyond Keefe D's claims has raised doubts about their credibility, particularly given potential motives to implicate a high-profile figure. In 2023, the long-dormant investigation reached a turning point when Dwayne Keefe D. Davis was formally charged with Tupac's murder. This development followed years of Davis's public admissions, including his 2019 memoir and appearances in documentaries such as Death Row Chronicles and Unsolved. Prosecutors argue that Davis's own words reveal his role as the orchestrator of the deadly shooting. Clark County District Attorney Steve Wolfson emphasized that under Nevada law, a person can be charged with murder even without pulling the trigger, as participation in planning and facilitating the crime carries equal legal responsibility. Davis's trial, originally set for June 2024, has been postponed multiple times and is now scheduled for February 9, 2025. These delays are linked to the defense introducing new evidence, including testimony claiming Davis was not in Las Vegas during the shooting. In a March 2025 jailhouse interview with ABC News, Davis claimed total innocence, stating, "I'm innocent. I ain't killed nobody, never did ever kill nobody," while asserting he was in Los Angeles with witnesses on September 7, 1996. This new alibi contradicts his previous public confessions, adding another layer of complexity to an already tangled case. Prosecutors have countered with hotel records linking Davis to Las Vegas that night, including rooms booked under his wife's name at the Monte Carlo Resort and under Orlando Anderson's name at the Excalibur Hotel. The ongoing legal battle against Davis marks the most significant development in the Tupac murder investigation in nearly 3 decades, potentially offering long-awaited answers to one of hip-hop's most enduring tragedies. However, the complexity of the case, decades of elapsed time, and the deaths of key figures mean some questions may never be definitively answered. Across various investigations, interviews, and confessions, the most substantiated conclusion remains that the Southside Compton Crips, specifically Keefe D and Orlando Anderson, were central to Tupac's killing. The motive, based on the strongest evidence, was direct retaliation for the MGM Grand Assault, making this a straightforward act of gang violence rather than an intricate industry conspiracy. This finding aligns with the work of investigators like Greg Kading, who have long emphasized the retaliation theory. As the case moves forward, and with Big U facing separate legal scrutiny, future revelations may yet reshape the understanding of these events and the intertwined histories of these powerful figures. If you found this breakdown compelling, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the video on your screen now to explore more untold hip-hop stories.